And we're live. Hello, Ned.
Hello.
Long time no talk. It's been like 100 months, or give or take, maybe a little bit less than 100 months. Um, and there has been an absolutely crazy amount to talk about, so I guess we can kind of just get rolling on that right now. We have a bunch of things to talk about today. The two I feel like obvious biggest ones, and it's like no question obvious biggest ones, are Estuary, which I've got showing up right above us right now, and the whole piracy box selling fiasco, which I feel like to this day, it's like nobody understands. Yeah, Carlo says Cody is my life. Yes, that's great. Um, yeah, the whole piracy box fiasco, which I feel like absolutely nobody gets, because every time we talk about it, and now every time we post anything, people obviously got the wrong message from our stand. So I don't know, Ned. I can't decide which one to talk about first because they're both very fun topics worth chatting about.
Yeah.
You have any opinion?
I don't know. Let's start with the skin.
Let's talk. Okay, that is the happier thing to talk
Yeah.
about. Okay, so the estuary skin, which you see above you, is super cool. I'm very pleased about it. And actually, so one of the things that's been bugging me for a few days now that we've made the announcement, are the people who are saying that it is a copy off of Plexus skin, which for one thing is very difficult for us to do because I don't think anyone involved in the development of the skin has ever seen the Plex skin.
Yeah,
Is
like
that
offhand, I don't even. I remember like their older interfaces.
Yeah, like the interface I remember is the one that was like Confluence but vertical. Remember
Yeah,
that one?
it was like based on like what was it called? Media
It,
Stream or something like that, or
yeah, maybe it was Media Stream. It
like
was. Oh
it's
man, it's gonna bother me now.
Lex.tv. Kind of.
Yeah,
It's
and
just
that's
that it's the rows of posters. It's
right, and that's so. I think when people say they think it's a ripoff of Plex, what they're actually saying is, I've never used anything but Kodi or Plex,
yeah.
right? Because it is a rip. I'm going to be the first to tell you that it's a rip, but
Oh
it's a
yeah.
rip off of Netflix, at
Yeah.
least in my mind.
Yeah, there's a lot of
It was
this
when we first
is
started talking about this skin, I put together like a little presentation on how I thought it should be, and I
mhm.
had this tile system, and the tile system 100% was from inspiration from Lean Back from Android TV's system,
Mhm.
and more specifically, it was not actually Android TV system, but it was Rutger, aka Big Noid's version of the lean back system that he'd skinned to make look like Cody.
Yeah,
Did you? Yeah. So you've seen that
yeah,
version, and that was. I mean, at the time, I was blown away by that version of his, and frankly, I kind of wanted that to be our default skin. But I think people didn't want that because it would have been way too obviously a ripoff of
yeah,
Leanback. So that was kind of the main inspiration, but I feel like all of these things are really rips off Netflix originally
yeah.
because
Well, it's a
before
very
Plex,
basic, very
before Lean,
core experience.
yeah,
It's kind
before
of the natural conclusion.
yeah, it's just how you get as much content on the screen as you can as quickly as you can. You just shove it all on there.
A nice,
Um,
clean, minimal interface.
yeah. And it looks like our users are helping each other out. Somebody was asking where can we get Estuary, and it's in the nightly builds for Kodi 17 right now. So you can get it just by downloading a nightly build. I don't really know if it's recommended that you do that unless you're excited about being a beta tester.
Mhm.
Um, but so that was sort of the original inspiration. It was just how can we get as much stuff out as possible, and then from there, I made the suggestion. Piers made a mock-up in like he said it took him 90 minutes,
Mhm.
and it looked really good for 90 minutes. And I'm avoiding showing that mock-up, honestly, because I'm afraid people will see it and say, "Well, I wanted that skin instead of what we have now," and then it'll be like, "Oh, I don't have to deal with that. That's too much work." So I did actually in the Facebook post today. Today I reposted that trailer video. I did show the wireframe that I made, kind of showing where this original idea came from.
Mm-hmm.
And it's interesting how different that wireframe is. Like in the wireframe, I was going for what's the name of that look? Where you like the left side actually matches the right side, and if you scroll down the right side, the left side kind of goes with you. It's also the name for the video game look when you're scrolling left to right and the background kind of moves but at a slower pace.
Oh yeah, that Oh yeah, yeah. There's a setting on it for iOS that you can reduce it if it's giving you motion sickness.
Yeah, that's exactly
It's
it.
like starts with an A or something.
And if anybody in the comments happens to know what this is called, it's really bugging me. Mike Watson, yeah, side scrolling is where you see it, but parallax, it's parallax.
Yeah,
So I was originally wanting a parallax effect where the left side would show what the category was, and then the right side would show like a list of that category.
yeah.
But Piers and Phil very rightly threw that idea out the window because it's not very good. And instead, the left side category shows like the major overarching category, and the right side shows like a list of different, Lefty parallax. Yes, thank you, Lefty. Shows a bunch of different categories or subcategories within that area. So like TV shows, the subcategories are in progress TV shows, recently added episodes, unwatched TV shows, which I at one point I added a folder for Dora the Explorer because I was starting to record it for my niece, but then I never filled it up. So I have like this empty Dora the Explorer folder for like 3 years. It just sits there. There's nothing in it. I think my niece, every time she sees it, is like, "Oh, sweet Dora," and then there's nothing in there.
Oh,
I don't feel bad. But yeah, so each of the categories has its own little thing, which is pretty cool. What other parts of the skin are worth talking about? That's kind of the home screen, and that's really where we really deviated from the original home screen. I think the other thing that I don't think we've pointed out at all, but it's probably worth pointing out, is the settings page, that kind of 3x4 square rectangle thing.
yeah.
That's
Grid.
that's a straight rip from Transparency, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's just Transparency settings page. It's a little different because we added media sources instead of whatever was there originally. But like system information, that's how Transparency has it set up. So yeah. Yes, Carlo, my niece. I do also love Dora, actually. It's fantastic. The old one. I hear there's a new one that I haven't seen, but I don't approve of because she doesn't have a backpack and there's no map. God, how can you have Dora without a map?
Have you seen the one done by Funny or Die? It's like
Yes.
live action.
Like Dora grows up.
Yeah.
Yeah, she starts using grenades and stuff.
Mm.
Carlos says Media Stream Redux. Is that it?
Yes.
Yes.
I
Okay.
think
So
that was.
Media Stream Redux, I'm pretty sure, is a version of Plex that we're all familiar with. There are some team members who use modern Plex, and they have shown it off, but I feel like I don't remember it looking anything like this. Like there are categories on the left.
Yeah.
Like there's a vertical menu. So it's similar in that there's a vertical menu. Is that what people are talking about?
Maybe.
I don't know.
I think after a while, because I mean, both for Cody and just for our own interests, both you and I, we look at this kind of stuff all the time. What other apps are doing? It all starts to just kind of mesh together.
It does.
Like,
It is.
I
It's
don't.
always a little bit of a miracle if I can remember where I first saw something.
Yeah.
And then sometimes I'll remember where I first saw something and I'll go looking at it again and it won't be at all like how I remember it being.
Mm.
And that'll always be real weird. I'm trying to think what other things happened in this
The on-screen display on for fast forward rewind. I love that
Oh, yeah, that is pretty cool.
because the old
Um,
way is like you had to physically move and select fast forward and rewind. So by the time you made it to the button or made it back to play, you were like past the point you wanted to go. So now
yeah.
you press
So
up, then left and right.
yeah, I should show that off while you're talking about it. Actually, I show it off in that big long 21-minute version,
Mhm.
but I don't think I show it off in the little shorter one. Um,
It's a beautiful little touch that is like that's the kind of like new changes that I wish not only to see more in other Cody skins, but I hope other applications copy that as well. It's a nice.
Yeah, it is. And it's cool. I like one of the things that they were trying for, Piers and Phil, when they were developing it, they were trying to make it as clear as possible when there were things that were weird.
Uh,
So with this on-screen display, it actually says when you highlight that, oops, I hit the button. When you highlight that little thing indicating where you are in the scroll thing, it actually says in the description, press left to rewind or right to fast forward. I imagine, hopefully, you get past that pretty quick. But there you go. I'm going to press right to fast forward. And you can press, this is cool too. I didn't notice this originally, but you can press down to stop.
mhm.
And that stops the fast forwarding, which is
Yeah,
also really cool.
yeah,
I
good.
would show rewinding, but I'm running Windows, and rewinding and Windows don't go together.
Oh yeah, still a little funky.
It's pretty jerky. It's nothing at all like fast forwarding. Um, Pat Pagano wants to know if these guys are devs or just fans. Pat, I'll tell you. So we have actual like things that we do. Ned's our wiki guy and has been for years. And I'm just the guy that takes care of things when nobody else will. Um, Usually, if there's like a body that needs to be cleaned up or whatever, that's my job. But at least officially here in KordKutters, we take a step back from those positions. Sometimes we relay information, but we're being just fans for the purposes of this podcast, because that way we can provide our opinions about things instead of just saying facts.
Mhm.
I love providing my opinion about things. Pseudo TV Live says that you're awesome, Ned.
Oh,
Pseudo T. Is that Lunatics, right?
I think yeah, it should be.
Somebody was
Unless
telling me
someone's
Lunatic's real name, and it was so far from what his username is that it was like, wow, that is a shock to me. It was like Steve. It wasn't Steve, but it was something like that. And I thought at the time I was like, God, I thought it was going to be something like Mercutio. Nah, well, whatever. Anyway, so I'm gonna get out of that. I was playing Big Buck Bunny. I'm gonna stop playing that. What else is there worth talking about? The other things, there were a few things early on that I was really pushing for because they're not really present in the home screen. The biggest one is under recently added. If you go to the end of the recently added list on the home screen, it's quite a bit shorter than Cody's regular recently added list, which is a big problem for me because my biggest use of Cody is TV shows. I watch a lot of TV shows, and I like going through the recently added list. And sometimes if I don't watch TV shows for a week or two, my recently added list I'll start like literally at the beginning of that list and just kind of go all the way through it.
Mhm.
So I pushed really hard for this recently added episode star up at the top. And also, I'm a big fan of the update library thing, even though that's a little different than the rest of the buttons. The rest of the buttons just kind of get you to different parts of the video category. Like if you click titles, it get you to the titles category.
Mhm.
Or if you click recently added, it'll get you to recently added. So update library is kind of a different button, but it's so useful that I love having it there.
Mm.
I don't know. I can't think of much else to talk about with Confluent. Sorry, with Estuary.
Well,
Oh,
like a lot of people, some people, 'cause most people seem to be understanding that this is the default skin. It might not fit everyone's taste, but even if you don't really like it, this is like a huge thing because like Confluence for years started as a base for people to make other skins.
yeah,
And under the hood, Estuary it takes advantage of all the latest skinning features and does things in a proper way. It'll be the new foundation for like a whole new generation of skins. So even if you're looking at this and you're like, well, it's still big news. It's going to be awesome. It'll result in things that look all different ways and tastes and styles. And this was like a big, huge thing. Just
that's
even
right.
doing that under the hood stuff, let
That
alone the new concepts.
that's right. That's actually in the Reddit thread. They were asking for something. I forget what it was that isn't in this. Oh, a way to add additional nodes or
Oh
categories to
yeah.
that left menu. And we said it wasn't possible. It's not going to happen. Not because it's not possible, because other skins have managed to do it. But what they do is they make a hack and do it that way.
Hmm.
And we're requiring for the skin to support it. It has to be supported in a way that works with Kodi itself,
Hmm.
the underlying software.
So there,
Um,
yeah, and there
and
are so like if that's driving now a change to add that to core, which is going to
yeah,
help everyone out.
yeah, exactly. Um, let's see. I'm not sure who's talking about it, but somebody in comments is talking about third-party add-ons that are illegal. I don't. So you guys should stop that because I don't have to ban people, especially Exodus. God, and I don't even know what these other ones are. Velocity? Uh, I don't
I
follow
hate it
that.
when not just add-ons, but any tech company or organization uses a very vague name as their name,
Yeah.
and you're like, someone was saying something like, "Hey, I used installer the other day," and I'm like, "What? Which one?" Is that,
Yeah.
oh, that's the name of it? Oh, that's lovely. Um,
That's reason that's a good segue into the whole piracy box seller thing actually because it's so perfectly describes what's so frustrating for us.
mhm.
The issue we've always had with the piracy box sellers and with the YouTube users and everybody is always the same thing. The issue isn't that they're pushing piracy or anything like that. The issue is that they're not separating out the name Cody from that act or
Yeah,
from that add-on, right?
yeah. Like when you're a user and you go out of your way to install something, you know very clearly that this is an addition, and there's no like when it's already there, or you're making it sound like this is what everyone does, then it's makes it sound like a totally different scenario.
Yes, well, I agree. Um, uh, and that's the problem. So
Yeah,
that's the issue that we keep running into is that people who are new to it, people who are new to Cody, um, including Pat Pagano, who doesn't know who we are, which is cool. I'm very excited that we have viewers who don't even know who we are. Super neat. Um, the people who are new don't know what's one thing and what's another thing. They don't
yeah,
know that Cody is within this box, and these are literally the only things it can do. And whatever add-on they're using is in another box. It's just an application running on top of Cody,
yeah,
and they aren't aware of that fact.
yeah,
And that's basically been our whole problem. And it's something. It's so hard to explain that to people. It's so hard to explain that we are frankly probably mostly fine with your using Cody in your YouTube videos or even selling Cody.
yeah.
What we're less fine with is you're using those things in a way that makes it look like Cody is the thing providing the things it's not providing.
Yeah. It's because a lot of people like they freaked out. They were like, "You're going after anyone who mentions Cody in a YouTube video," and they, it was not that. That's like you can talk about these things, even the piracy add-ons, like that. That's like it's a little bit of a kind of a PC response. We got to kind of say we don't endorse that, but we also don't like condemn it.
Yeah.
It's if that's what you want to talk about, that's fine. It's just take a moment, realize how it might be received, because I think most of the people do not have any malicious intent. They think they're helping. They're trying to provide a service, and that's fine. But like it has caused issues, and it's just you think like if like one guy was saying, he's like, I don't put Kodi in any of my advertising, but I do preload these add-ons and I sell them to people on Fire Sticks. And I was trying to explain to him, yeah, but every day your customer's clicking on that Kodi icon and they see that, so like do something to distance itself or explain the situation, because as it is, it's a lot of confusion. Or even the people who do know a little bit better, they'll just kind of be like, well, everyone does this. And then all of a sudden they're surprised when we tell them that Kodi can actually play local files. They don't even know that. And, it's like,
I went to the local Apple Fix-It store recently because I have an iPhone 6 Plus, and evidently they have a thing where there's like the input connector gets a little loose. Mm-hmm. And so you have to do this weird thing where you like squeeze it and stuff to make it work again. So I went to their store, and they kind of reapplied the connector, and now it works fine. But I came in wearing my Kodi t-shirt, one of my Kodi t-shirts, and they were like, "Oh, I love Kodi." And then one of the two guys, so they spent a lot of time talking to me about add-ons, and I just kind of like nodded and was like, whatever. But then one of the guys said, "You know what I really wish Kodi could do though? I have all these movies and stuff on this external hard drive on my NAS. It'd be so cool if Kodi could also view those." And I was like, that's what it does. That's the best thing it does. Those add-ons those suck compared to its ability to do this.
Yeah. And
I didn't know what to say. I was so flummoxed.
Yeah. People like it's like, we're not saying that, like, all right, we're expecting everyone to not pirate or anything. I mean, I've pirated a lot of stuff.
Yeah. Oh, and that's...
But it's like it could even be a positive thing. Like, let's say Kodi was ported to some Sony product or something, and it was so popular that everyone forgot every other platform that Kodi also supported. That would still be, like, an issue. Like it could be the pendulum can swing the other way, and it can still, you can still be a detriment to the project. The way people think about things, and because it prevents them from understanding what the project's trying to do, what their goals are, and what other people can use it for. And it's hard to kind of summarize it all real easily. It's kind of a the way it can cause issues is, very complicated. Like the easy example is like the Amazon App Store and stuff like that. But it's not judging anyone. It's not saying you can't talk about it. It's just being like, hey, help us out here.
Yeah. So yeah, I have two follow-ups there. Oh, and Carlo, I'm going to try to remember to answer your question why Stadia isn't updating. But I have two follow-ups there. So after the blog post about Estuary was posted, somebody in Reddit asked, can you explain why there's a picture of something that clearly must have been pirated?
Yeah.
And another person said, well, actually, it's already out in yada yada country, so it probably isn't, I think. Or maybe
Yeah.
that was in Facebook where they said that.
It was like
Anyway,
Reddit or something.
somewhere there was this conversation. I think it happened in a couple different places. And the answer to that, I first honestly, I mean, you have a library that you made that's just a fake library, and we use
Mhm.
it a lot.
Yeah.
Where literally all it is fake video files, and then all the fake stuff that goes along with it, just to make it look like we have a big library.
Mhm.
So it could have been that, but let's for a moment just assume it's not. Let's assume it's piracy. We don't care.
Yeah.
We're not opposed to piracy. We are 100% neutral on piracy at all times. And if someone uses piracy to acquire something through whatever, uTorrent or Sonar or Couch Potato, what's the video one, the movie one? Oh, that's Couch Potato.
Oh.
Or Sickbeard or any of those applications. Or if they just go onto YouTube and download something from YouTube that's pirated. We don't care. We really, seriously, genuinely don't care.
Yeah.
That is their prerogative, and they can do it as much as they want.
Yeah.
You can put up a library on YouTube that's got like Star Wars Episode 7 in it, and
Yeah.
we won't care. I mean, don't like actually play it because then you'll get flagged because don't
Yeah.
be an idiot.
YouTube is it? Yeah.
But we don't care. The problem isn't doing the Piracy Act. It's talking about the Piracy Act. It's exactly the same thing as Xbox Media Center back in the day. The problem was never people actually making XBMC in 2006. That was fine. We had no problem with that. The problem was people constantly coming to the forum and saying, "Where's the link to XBMC, the illegal XKD application?"
Yeah.
And then we would be like, "Are you a freaking moron?" The one thing you don't do in this legal area is talk about illegal stuff.
Yeah.
That's the only thing we want people to not do.
Yeah, because it's not a moral thing. It's not it's this is what the project needs to do. And honestly, it really is a neutral space. Like there's the people that have over the years, I think at any given time there might be like 50 active members, but over the years there's been hundreds of developers, and they all range in different areas. Some of them honestly have not pirated anything and do not like that at all. They don't like people talking about it. Some of them have never bought a movie in their life. It's a huge range. So the collective application really is not tailored towards one thing or another. I mean, I remember people talking about like the anime groups really got into a format called high 10p or 10-bit, and it wasn't supported at the time, and there was even some discussions about like just ignoring it completely despite them. So like every time someone like thinks that Kodi is tailored toward pirating, I'm like, well, no, it's not really. Like sometimes the discussion went the other way. It's a whole range of opinions, and it really is like whatever you want to use it for, that's fine. But like even if like I personally was like, oh, I love piracy, everyone should pirate, and I made some suggestions to that extent, they would probably be ignored. Like the developers are very proud of what they do. They're very kind of purist. They're like, we look to the formats, we look for standards, and that's what we want to support. They look to the technical thing and to an extreme almost. Like these guys are just obsessed with making this great player, and they don't care what you put into it. That's up to you. And as long as you, or if you're a seller, and as long as your customers know that, then it's probably not going to be a problem.
That sounds about right. That's one of the things. One of the reasons I was always so hesitant to write an article like the one I did, where we said, this is a problem. All of these piracy box people are a problem for us. The reason we waited so long, or at least the reason I waited so long, was because it's a tough statement to make, because there are a minimum of 35 developers at any given time, usually way more than that, even though they're not necessarily team members, they're just people who contribute random code. And making a broad statement like that is a tough thing to do with that many developers because it's hard to say. Maybe there are some of them who genuinely think this is the best thing that could happen. That sellers on eBay are selling janked up Amazon Fire TV sticks. And so making a statement for the whole organization is especially something along those lines is something that we try to avoid doing basically constantly. Like there are all kinds of opinions within the community that we kind of let blow over because there's debate and discussion and if you have that one podium where you have this conversation, then it sounds like everyone behind the organization agrees with this. And so I avoided having that conversation for a very long time until it became clear, at least to me, that pretty much everyone agreed. Like this is the point at which we have to say literally every person who's ever worked on Kodi is not a big fan of this, or at least every active developer who's worked on Kodi is not a big fan of this. But man, I was so worried about making that point and then having an active dev come out and say, "Well, actually, I'm fine with it." That would have been an awkward moment. But yeah, it's a bully. It's they call it a bully pulpit to be the president of the U.S. and writing for that blog is pretty much exactly the same thing because a lot of people read that blog.
There was this like kind of hysteria for a while on YouTube about people going, "I'm going to get taken down," and because some people did get account notices, and they weren't just talking about it, but it's not a people can calm down. It's no one's going to come to your house and.
I watched a few of those videos. I think my favorite moment was when the Joe guy referred to me as that fat guy. I had a good chuckle about that. That made me feel pretty good. I was glad that he knew who I was. Yeah, I think we've kind of addressed it. This is probably going to be an ongoing process, basically for the rest of the history of Kodi.
Yeah,
because there are just always going to be new people who don't know. So with that said, I say it's been 34 minutes. We've probably been talking for 30 at least. Let's go to answering some Q&A questions from the crowd. Starting with, if I can find it again.
are you talking about the iOS one?
Yeah, the iOS one. The reason that's happening, the reason iOS isn't updating is we've switched to, I don't really get how it works, but we have like a DNS server that's based out of Cloudflare that's pretty cheap, but it's protecting us from DDoS attacks because evidently that's the thing we have to deal with now.
Yeah. One of those YouTubers got mad or something, and
yeah. So now we have to deal with DDoS attacks, and one of the problems with Cloudflare is it doesn't play very well with Cyadia and
probably the Steam OS one too, isn't it? Because it uses
that probably
apt-get.
also doesn't. Well, I don't know, maybe, but it doesn't play very well with mirror bits.
Oh, yeah.
Directly when you're talking about Cyadia. So
Which
there's
is,
internal talk about how to deal with that. I haven't honestly been paying very close attention.
I think that's the same reason why we've been getting droves of Fire TV users saying they can't download it too. Because the big thing is to use ES File Explorer, which has a little internal browser, and like the link won't work, and it was the same time. So it's just like you have to just keep clicking it. But for iOS at least, it messes up the repository the way it works. I think it's something with the it checks like a hash or something to make sure it's the right file. The file's there. You can install 16 on an iPhone. You just have to go to the link directly. If you go on the wiki, there's a little notice and a little link, and you can do it right in mobile Safari. It's just not updating on the repo on the uh, uh, what did you call? I keep calling it Cydia. Uh,
Oh, I call it City is probably actually right.
I
I don't
have
know
no
what I call
idea.
it though.
I call everything. I was calling Cody Kodai
Yeah.
for a while.
Kodai, did you know? So there's one of the people who are trying to rebrand are using a name Lodi,
Yeah,
Lodi, but there's also an actual city, I think, in Pennsylvania called Lodi.
yeah,
So I love seeing that because if you Google it, it's like 10,000 pages about Lodi, Pennsylvania, or
yeah.
wherever that is. I'm sorry if Lodi people, if you're not in Pennsylvania.
They're like, how do I get free movies in Lodi? And also, where's the best place in Lodi to get pancakes?
That would be awesome if Cody became the other place people search for restaurants in Lodi.
Mm.
Um, Pat Pagano wants to know: can you recommend a skin that offers favorites?
Oh, they all offer favorites.
Yeah, favorites
Uh,
is just part of Cody.
like if you're talking like on the home screen, I've actually been kind of looking into that myself too. There was a couple of the ones that were like Apple TV inspired that were pretty neat, that were pretty much just a grid of icons. Like your music videos, your TV shows, your libraries, they were squares, and then you could choose whatever add-on or launcher item or whatever for the
So
other things. Because I
so the
wanted these,
favorites showed up as
yeah,
like
as
icons in the home
tiles.
screen.
Yeah,
Oh, that's a pretty cool
it
idea.
kind of, and the other thing you can do too is just use favorites, and for some skins you can just go straight into favorites instead of your home screen.
Yeah.
Like it'll just kind of, there's because like I've been doing that a lot on Android because I like using Kodi to launch my other apps.
Yeah. That would be pretty handy. So which one is that an official skin or is that
Yeah, I
just
think so. There's a couple of them over the years, and I remember someone using that, and it was a pretty nice option. And there's a couple other ones too, I think, that give you like you're basically using custom home items, but it's using the favorites to kind of automate it.
yeah. So
Uh,
this is not using just a favorites icon, which is how
I,
Confluence does it and Estuary does it.
I think it does. I don't know. I cannot find it though. Da, 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 da. There are some great skins out there though that have come out. Some are a little daunting to set up, like what was it, Cover, but it's really cool if you look at their thread. They might have something too. Uh, yeah, it's like app.
Two suggestions from comments are Amber, um, Juan Abelar. Sorry, I'm gonna mess up everybody's name. He says Amber offers this kind of thing. And Jay Marzella says Confluence, but spelled with an X instead of a C at the
Oh
beginning.
yeah, yeah, the mod.
Zonfluence
Hmm.
allows you to do the same thing.
Which, by the way, while we were talking, I looked up and uh, uh, where to go? Estuary already has a mod.
Really?
Yeah, for
That's
adding
awesome.
things to the home screen. Someone has
Oh,
already made a yeah mod.
that's fantastic. Good.
Midral has done it. Midral. I think I'm pronouncing his name right. There's already a mod.
Well, it's
Less,
crazy how
less than a
fast people
week.
can work on this thing when they're inspired. What other questions do we have? Sorry, guys, if I missed some of your questions.
Oh,
Uh,
Titan's a good one too. Yeah.
oh, Titan's one of those ones that I've used a couple times and never quite get around to liking.
Well, it's
I
got a
feel
lot
like.
of options, which I like. I clicked on something because I'll try them, when they come out, and I'm like, that's all right. Then all of a sudden, I clicked on something, and it was like a totally different home screen, and I was like,
Yeah,
what?
yeah,
So it's got some really neat options. Um, I really tried to encourage the skinners to make little help pages, like on the wiki. You can make your own. Each skin is automatically generated a page, and they can
yeah.
go on there and make their own guides, add YouTube videos, because a lot of this stuff is unknown to most people, even us. And
It's true. It's that was one of the funny comments on that estuary on all the Estuary threads was something along the lines of, if it's not broken, don't fix it. Why are you doing this? This is horrible. I don't like change.
Uh-huh.
And I mean, the answer to every single one of those guys is, I mean, there are a lot of skins. Confluence will still exist.
Oh yeah.
PM3 HD still exists.
Yeah, yeah.
Just install that. I mean, if you liked it, just install that one instead.
Yeah, it's still going to be, I think Hitcher was interested in just doing whatever was needed to kind of keep it afloat for people
Yeah.
who don't like change. I mean, like I really like Estuary, and there's still a couple of views where I'm just like, it's different. I'm scared. Um,
Yeah.
yeah.
There's, let's see, do I have it highlighted? There's a, oops, too big. There's a TV show view that I really like. Let's see if I can remember which one it is. Um, Not the list. I'm not a big fan of the list view. I used to be a big fan. Oh, Shift. I really like Shift. I think that's a really neat view.
Mm.
Unfortunately, Shift doesn't work very well with the art that I have, for whatever reason. But it's a really cool view. And also the info wall. I am an absolute nutcase for the info wall because it does everything I want it to do. It lists just about as much information as you could possibly imagine, and as many shows as you can imagine in the given space. And I love it.
Mm.
Mark Nico. Anyway, he says he's from Warrington, England. Cheers, mate. Question: I have a UHD TV, 4K TV. However, Cody's 16 does not scale at 3840 by 2160.
Mm.
It should. I'm not sure
Well,
what
it's
that means.
I think he's talking about the GUI. Like
Oh, is he? You think he's using Android?
yeah, probably because there's been a couple people asking about this. Version 15 had a hack specifically for the Shield to let it do 4K because the Shield's a beast and it was able to just render everything at 4K, the interface, pictures. But normally you don't do that because most 4K Android boxes can't really handle that, or at least they'll slow down a lot.
Yeah.
So the proper way to do it is only the video gets handled as 4K. So that was implemented. So like it is, because it's really nice if you do have a 4K TV to see, like, because your posters, even if like the icon for the poster is small, it's very sharp. Like you go in, you're like, oh wow. So we've lost that for now, but I'm sure like that's one of those eventual things that the Android TV platform is going to figure out. Because it's just every
Yeah.
time we hear about Google, like what is it, Android N is the latest one that people are already talking about. Like they just keep adding more and more proper ways to do things, which is why, because it's like, yeah, the hack could have been added back in, but it's a very sloppy way to do it. So it's kind of like hold out, and hopefully the Android guys will have a solution for you. I'm sure someone probably will figure out a way to make a little unofficial version 16 with that in it. It's just like it would probably only work on the Shield because the Shield's a beast.
And the other problem, and this is a tricky one, is a lot of times what'll happen is Kodi itself will render at the native resolution on Android specifically. It'll render at the native resolution of the skin, so either 720 or 1080p. And on System Info, it'll list it as that native resolution. And the problem is if you then start a video, the video will be 4K, but if you go to that System Info, it's still going to say 720 or 1080p just
Yeah.
because that's what Kodi sees. Like,
Yeah.
it doesn't see the video underneath. So the video will be 4K and it'll look great, but you will think that it's not 4K, and so you will assume it doesn't look great.
Yeah.
It's a very
That sometimes happens,
psychology
too.
kind of thing going on there.
Yeah.
There are tests because it's hard to tell. Once you hit a certain threshold of how, oh my God, this looks amazing, it's really hard to tell if it really is 4K or not. Like a really high bitrate 1080p looks sometimes quite a bit better than a low bitrate 4K video. and so it's super hard to tell which is which.
Yeah.
So I know for a fact that the NVIDIA guys and at least one of our Android guys is looking at it and doing tests and stuff to make sure that it's actually working the way we expect it to work. So, you know, if we find a fix that we need to make, we'll implement it as soon as we can. But I don't think there needs to be a fix.
Yeah. Well, it would only be for like posters and things in the GUI. Video is always going to be like Koying has in the Android support form. There's a sticky and it says, "Are your videos shown in 4K?" And he's got a little file and instructions on how you can actually put your worries to rest, at least for video. And it tells you, like, you play the test file and you look, and if it's this way or that way, it'll
crinkly or blurry or something. Yeah.
And because I don't even think like on iOS and OS X, like I don't think Cody's doing like the Retina stuff yet. Just because that's a whole other thing, but someday, you know, maybe, or you know, spread the news that this is a feature that you want to other developers, because we're always looking for developers.
Speaking of which, well, speaking of 4K, actually, I had a conversation with a guy on Reddit. And okay, so we have about 12 minutes left before it's an hour. I think we should try to do a hard cut in an hour. But speaking of which, speaking of 4K, I had a conversation with a guy on Reddit the other day where he said, "Can you recommend a box for 4K that's $60 or less?" And my answer was no. And then I said, "And you don't need it. Like, if you want a box that's $60 or less, you should not be trying to do 4K on that box. Because, number one, there's nothing that you can get, or virtually nothing that you can get that's 4K. Like, the best pirate places out there have, like, 4 movies. The best Blu-ray rips out there, the best Blu-rays at all, the 4K Blu-rays, are still, I mean, there's like 10 of them if you go to Best Buy. There's just not a lot of content out there that's 4K. And so he argued that the point of getting this box was future-proofing, which I feel like he doesn't get future-proofing. The whole theory behind future-proofing is you're willing to spend more money so that you don't have to spend more money later. $60 is not going to do it.
Yeah.
You're going to spend, if you really are serious about future-proofing, your options are, there are 3 basically. You can get an Amazon Fire TV, except Kody can't use the 4K there because they're weird software implementation problems.
Oh yeah, they only do it for approved video partners. Yep. It's another way we've gotten snubbed.
Yeah. You can use the NVIDIA Shield, which literally does work that way. That's fine. Or you can build a Windows PC or Linux, probably.
Well, there's a few Android boxes that'll do 4K, but it's not great.
that's the problem. It's I don't know. If Minix or WeTech have a box that do this, then that's my bad. I'm not aware of one.
Oh yeah,
that's
they both have one.
4K.
Yeah. Like the WeTech has the WeTech Core. It'll do. Will the Core do 4K, or am I thinking of the new one? They just announced one this week.
Is it Intel based or is it ARM based?
It's ARM based. Amlogic does have some 4K stuff. I don't think the Core is the Core 4K. Because I'm probably mixing up, because there's HEVC, the 265 support, and there's 4K. They usually go hand in hand, but sometimes
not always. Because like the Pi 2 and 3 both support HEVC, but only 1080p or 720p.
Yeah.
And even then, I think it's only 8-bit instead of 10-bit.
Oh, okay.
I don't really know what that means.
Yeah, the Core does do, or did it? Yeah, it says 4K, but it only does 10-bit, or it only does 8-bit HEVC. But WeTech announced some new ones that'll do 10-bit as well. So yeah, it kind of goes back to what you were saying. It's like, yes, you can get one now, but it's like it's not like a huge thing, and there's still like, there. I think the latest thing now is like high contrast something is like
Oh
now
yeah,
they're
yeah,
talking
that's a big deal
about,
now too.
for TVs and stuff. It always feels like a cat and mouse game to me, and yeah, I'm sure people will correct us on this because I don't really follow it closely, and there's some people that are just obsessed about this, but it feels to me like a cat and mouse game. So yeah, if you're spending $100 or less for your Android box, it's not going to be future proof.
No,
But because it's
and
$100 or
that's
less, you can buy one every so often and
right.
be.
The problem, and there are some suggestions going on in the comments that have this same issue. Like they're talking about Matricom, and the problem with all of those is that those all require a certain amount of chipset support that we just can't guarantee.
Oh,
Like Matricom and those guys are using they're the ones using Rock chip, and it's like, it advertises 4K and octa-core and all that stuff, but who knows if Kodi supports that 4K? I It's so hard to tell because none of us, virtually none of us, have 4K TVs or any 4K interest even because it's just not enough 4K content.
oh.
Um,
I think they're using Amlogic. I don't know.
Matricom is using Logic.
Yeah.
I say Rock Chip because I had that conversation with somebody in that same thread.
Oh yeah, yeah. Rock Chip is weird. You know what's weird about Rock Chip? These different vendors is like there's a bunch of them, and they're actually kind of decreasing in number. Maybe that's my imagination, but there's a lot of these little Chinese chip companies coming out, and kind of the strongest are starting to survive, and the other ones are going out. Rock Chip has been in a weird place where they make a decent chip for some stuff, but like there's some things you're just like, why are they not going the standard way? Apparently Intel has got like a big investment now in them. And I'm hoping that rubs off on them, like they're going to be like, start doing this, start doing that.
Intel has an investment in Rock Chip?
Yeah, it's really
Wow.
surprising
Wow,
because I'm
that's
like,
interesting.
I think it's like a diamond in the rough thing almost, where it's like some of these chips, like right now when you buy it, it's like even Amlogic, which is often considered one of the better chips, they have these weird issues about them that you're just like, wow, if any one of these companies like fix those issues, they could be the king of the set-top box world. They would just dominate. All the developers would love them. More people would support them because it would be easy. And it's getting there. It's just slowly getting there, I think. And I'm hoping because yeah, Rockchip is a weird entity where they made like a cheap, inexpensive chip with some nice features, but then they go, oh, it's implemented this way. It doesn't use the standard for Android, and it's like, what? That made sense for 5 years ago, but not now.
Yeah. Yeah. So to go back to answer that question, if you're not spending over $100, then just don't worry about 4K. Just don't worry about it.
Uh,
4K will come, and then you can spend another $60 and have great support for it. And in the meantime, buy a Nexus player or buy a Raspberry Pi 3 because they're cool. Oh, we didn't even talk about Raspberry Pi 3.
I know, right?
Oh, I'm sad. Man, Raspberry Pi 3 is cool.
Yeah.
I have one right here. Let's see. Yeah. That's sticking out of this flirt case. It's been an interesting couple weeks because I put out that video about the Raspberry Pi 3, and you would not believe how many people know more about the Raspberry Pi 3 than me without ever having once touched a Raspberry Pi 3. They
Yeah.
know so much that I don't know. Like when I mentioned the fact that the Raspberry Pi 3 overheats, unlike the Raspberry Pi 2, and so a heatsink's not that bad of an idea, they were like, Raspberry Pis don't overheat. You're wrong. Oh, it's a delight. It's so great to be wrong about so many
Well,
things.
actually, you might be right. There was some debate about that, about whether or not the Pi 3's internal temperature sensors reading it right or something like that.
It's definitely. I think my understanding is it definitely doesn't. Like it reads it as not overheating when it already is.
Yeah, like it's the first Pi though where like a heat sink is actually like a good idea. But on the Pi 1 and the Pi 2, they were just like,
There's no point.
yeah. But now it's actually so like all these people selling these little heat sinks are like, yay. But even then, like you don't even need a fan or anything. And like some people were putting pennies. Like there's a couple threads on the Pi forums about
Yeah. I
people
saw a video where they were just comparing all of the different. It wasn't even cases. It was just
like objects.
heat sink things.
Yeah,
Yeah.
putting paper clips on it and stuff because it's just barely on the edge because it's still based on a processor that's meant to be used in a very confined space,
Yeah.
and it shouldn't even if it does like overheat, it should throttle itself back. It shouldn't ever actually like explode like one of those hoverboards or something.
Yeah. Yeah. That's. I don't know. I think it's pretty cool. The one problem I have with it, and maybe I just got a weird one. I don't know. It doesn't have a spring in it anymore.
Oh yeah, that's a lot of people are talking about that. I hear different things. One is that it's cheaper to exclude that, and I figure they're getting pretty close to the added features, so they probably needed to cut some costs somewhere. But someone was saying that they had a problem with them breaking, and I've got three or four of them with the spring. I've got some B pluses and some Pi 2s, and I've never had one break on me. Because,
Yeah.
yeah, some of the cases, you can only get the card out by pushing it in and springing it back out. Where if it's a friction thing, like you have to kind of like get your thumbnail in there.
Yeah. You kind of pull it out.
Yeah.
It makes casing a little bit trickier, but whatever. Once you have the SD card in there in the first place, you don't really need to switch it out all that often. So there's a question: that metal flirt case have a heat transfer plate? Yes, I'll show it to you right here. So here's an original flirt case. I think this is, I don't know, this is revision 3, if that means anything. And you can see on the inside there's a flirt plate with a heat transfer pad. And that goes directly on top of the Raspberry Pi CPU. Well, I'm actually talking to the flirt case guy, Jason, and he's doing tests at the moment to see just how effective it is. So I don't have info on exactly how effective it is, but I mean, it's still not super overheating. So I imagine whatever it needs to be de-overheated,
So
heat
dissipate.
absorbed, is accomplished. Pat Pagano says, I have Kodi with an HDMI splitter going to 2 rooms with Sybu as a remote, SYBU. I don't know what that is.
I think that's one of those home automation Omni remote kind of things.
Oh, okay. Well, good for you, Pat. That sounds
Oh,
cool.
which by the way, we talked about it before, but I never was able to show it off. I don't know if it'll show up on my video, but I got my smart lights working. When I play a video, it'll dim the lights here.
Oh, cool.
Maybe. No, I'm just a liar. Oh, there it goes. I don't know. Can you see that?
Yeah, that's cool.
And
That's
when you
awesome.
pause it, it comes back up. I love it.
Yeah, that's pretty
That's
awesome.
with Philips Hue. But if you start getting into the home automation stuff, it's like drugs. You just can't. It's a gateway, and you start making your coffee maker start when you watch certain TV shows. I don't know.
Yeah. All right. Well, we've hit an hour, and I feel like there's still lots to talk about, but we can probably push it off till next week.
We won't be able to talk about the biggest news, and that is we're coming back to the original Xbox.
That's right. The original Xbox finally a return.
Yes.
Oh man, I thought about it. I recently rebuilt a computer for my dad. I tried to record a lot of video of me doing that. I don't know if I'll ever post it, but I think it'd be cool. But one of the things I really wanted to do was to take an old Xbox case, rip all the guts out, and then just put in the mini ITX case, a riser, and the video card, which I think it should all fit in
Oh
there.
yeah, I've seen a couple of people do that.
Yeah, and that would be cool. I'd love to do that.
Uh-huh.
Um,
Because that's
but
the only
I,
bad thing about like this big Android explosion and these cheaper devices is we don't see as many of the cool HTPC case mod stuff anymore.
yeah,
That's the only thing I would like to see more.
yeah, and that was the point I was going to make earlier. If you seriously want to plan for the future, if you're genuinely dedicated to being future proof, then the real answer is to get an HTPC that has an NVIDIA 970 graphics card in it.
Yeah,
Because then you've got HDMI 2, you've got the most ridiculously overpowered system in the world, and there's simply nothing that it can't do,
hmm
including 4K HEVC in software if you want. And now I think the NVIDIA, so our Windows dev, my understanding is he's actually got MVC working in Windows, which means 3D full
Oh
frame
yeah,
video.
frame packed or whatever it's called.
Yeah. So I
Yeah,
mean, if you're really serious about future proofing and just making everything work, that's a pretty cool way to go.
yeah. It's still ridiculous that the Pi was our first platform with that feature.
Yeah.
Like, what?
Yeah. Well, anyway, so thanks for chatting, Ned. Thanks for visiting all you guys who came along, especially who's all talking, Pat and Carlo and all you guys. Hopefully we'll be on next week, and I don't know. Thanks for watching.
Yeah.
All right. See you later.